Hello everyone, I'm Colin with the Pod Initiative. Up until this point for the campaign Hope in Motion, we've been fortunate enough to connect with Lucia as well as Gia, who have shared their stories with cancer. And so today I would like to introduce you all to Tammie. Tammie is a part of the Burnaby Mountain Mantas, the same club that Lucia is a part of and the club that I used to coach for. And so through that, we were able to connect, and Tammie has expressed interest in sharing her story as well. So welcome, Tammie.
Thank you, Colin.
I guess to start, would you like to introduce yourself and a bit about yourself?
My name is Tammie, and I'm a mother of 2 young daughters. And my story started a few years ago where I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the beginning of COVID. Through that journey, I can say today I'm a survivor. I have beat cancer and I'm doing well. And I'm here today with Colin because there was some kindness that was shown to me. As you can imagine, during COVID, when it was through isolation and I couldn't see anyone and no one could see me. And of course, the struggles and challenges of cancer in itself, just getting the diagnosis. And I'm here today with Colin because his story of how he came up with the idea of pods and how we were connected through Mantis really inspired me. And I wanted to share my story with you, Colin, because if I can pay my story forward to help one person, that would mean the world to me, if I can help one. So that's why I'm here today with you, Colin.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tammie. I guess let's start with the very beginning of all of that then, perhaps maybe the diagnosis.
So one of my big goals is to promote mammogram awareness. Mammograms saved my life. I started early, and it's through those repetitive mammogram tests, which is an x-ray of the breast, that caught my cancer early enough to get recognized, to get treatment. And fortunately, I had a type of breast cancer which was the best of the breast cancers. So, and luckily they were able to capture it and treat it. So I am cancer-free today because of that. So my story is that mammograms are through self-referral. You start at 40 and you can book it yourself. And many people may get deterred because of life and challenges, but I can tell you personally, I'm the first in my family. I had no symptoms, and it's only because I advocated for myself to get tested and screened that we caught the breast cancer. If I can pay that forward to any woman with screening, I'm hoping it can save someone else too.
Wow. Where did that initiative come from? Like, I am going to seek out mammograms. Like, where was it taught to you somewhere, or was it something that you did research on your own?
So I come from a background of healthcare.
Okay.
So I just knew instinctively at 40, that's when I can go. I qualify to book for a mammogram. Yeah, so that's part of my story, is to share that, because some clinicians may say you don't have cancer in your story or your history, you don't need to go till 50. So I tell women, you can self-refer at 40 like I did and advocate for your own health, because if I had waited till 50, my cancer would have been advanced and I may not be sitting here with you today.
Right.
Or it'd be a very, very different picture sitting here with you today.
I think a lot of people who get surprised by their diagnosis, I think that acceptance of it is quite challenging. I'm curious what that process was for you, knowing that you went into it with the background that you have.
Even with the background in healthcare that I do have, it doesn't take away from the shock of hearing the words that I have cancer.
Wow, okay.
I can tell you I went through the process of all the steps that I needed to do. I did all the Google research and everything that I needed to do before consultations and appointment. And looking back, it's the best that I could do, but at the end of the day, it's my trust and faith in the people looking after me that helped me through the process. And to be honest, I was in survival mode. I had 2 young kids at the time, and I wanted to be strong for them. I honestly did not cry or process for at least 5 to 6 months because I wanted to be strong for my family. I didn't want to burden them with my emotions. because they were coping in their own way as well. So it was very hard. And again, we were in COVID, so I couldn't get the support that I would have received if people were able to visit. But I can say that eventually I accepted the diagnosis and I accepted help, and I'm so much better for that. Mental health, I went through that, the challenges of that, and I can say that I worked really hard, and I'm really proud of where I am today, because that took me almost 3.5 to 4 years to get to where I am now. My family and I are so much better for it. I'm at peace with many more things in life. I know what's important in my life. We all know what's important in our life, but I can really prioritize what is important to me in my life, which is my family, and not stress the little stuff. I'm grateful for every day I'm here right now.
Wow. You speak about the process that you undertook. Is there anything that you feel like other people can implement, that you've implemented, that has given you that perspective, that gratitude that you just shared?
The only tip I can pay forward is that one thing I said to myself is, I'm swimming in waters I have no idea how to navigate. But the one promise I made to myself from the beginning was, I'm going to accept any help that comes my way that is offered. And that made a big difference. Acceptance of what was happening, where I was at in the processing of the grieving process, because life will flash before your eyes when this is happening, and accepting all of that and going through the process and knowing what's happening helped me heal. It helped me start to heal, and I started to cry and I let my tears out, and it was the kind hearts that listened to me, sent a few words of, how are you? Don't need to know your story, but know that I'm thinking of you. All of those little things enabled me to start healing and processing, and enabled me to work on myself to get here today.
We speak about mental health and that challenge. I'm curious, and if you're the physical aspect of it, through treatment, through all that.
Mental health is a tricky one, because one clinician had a very good way of putting it. Mental health is like having a concussion. You suffer the injury, you can't see it. And I remember saying or thinking to myself is, I'm going through these challenges inside and no one can see it, because I look normal, I was talking normal, I looked perfectly fine, and unless someone was taking the initiative to check in more on me, or unless I was sharing with them, no one knew what troubles I was going through. And that's my experience of mental health, and how silent it can be. I call them my dark days. I was very lucky that I surfaced from these dark days, but I could easily have gone darker, and it would have been so comforting. But I had kids, I have a husband, I have family, and that kept me afloat enough to start processing and healing. And it's tiring. It was a lot of work for me, mentally and physically, to get through the diagnosis and the mental health aspect of the journey that all cancer patients go through, but I can tell you it was worth it. I'm so much better for it. My family is. Like, in a way, cancer reset my life and my path and where I want to go. If I didn't get diagnosed with cancer, I'd still be going full force and being the way I was. And that may or may not have been the right way, but it was the way for me. And I can say now that it woke me up. I have a much clearer perspective on where I want to be going forward. So
you spoke about mammograms. I'm really curious about the process of it, just so that the audience member who are curious or want to know more about it can find their way to going through the procedure and so forth.
Every woman who is 40 years old qualifies for a mammogram in BC. Just Google BC mammogram site and you pick the closest clinic to you, and then you book it. The challenges I've had when talking to women is they don't have time, it hurts, they're nervous, they're scared, they give me many reasons. And I come back to them and say, yes, it does hurt to get your boobs squished, but wouldn't you rather have the information and find out everything is great and normal or not, so you can move forward and plan? If you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for your kids, do it for your family, because mammogram technology has advanced so much that it will pick up the smallest cells like it did for me. It picked it up at a precancerous or very early stage because the technology is so good, and that saved my life. So there should be no reason to stop. Women, I find, put ourselves last, and we need to advocate for ourselves, and that's one thing we can do. So I would tell women to just go. Do it, if not for yourself, for your kids and your family that love you and want you to be here for another day, decades. Once I had the mammogram that came back positive, the next step was a biopsy mammogram, where it's a mammogram under x-ray, but they had to insert a needle to take a sample of the cells. And when waiting for that, that led to the further steps of it came back positive, what are the next steps? Usually the first step is a lumpectomy, where they take just a small piece of tissue out and see if they can capture that, and then waiting for the next pathology report. And then after that, it could be chemo, radiation, mastectomies. It all varies depending on what the results are. And I could tell you that waiting for each pathology report had my nerves on end for everyone, and it's very stressful, and it takes weeks to wait for your pathology report and then figure out, okay, now that we have these results, where do we go from here? And it's different for everyone. I learned that my journey of breast cancer was one of the best breast cancer, I could just say, because it was responsive to surgery, and I'm on there's a medication for it, so that's helping me with metastases, so cancer is not spread to other parts. But there are women in my life after I got diagnosed that got rare breast cancers and rarer breast cancers, and just in my circle of friends at work, there are 5 other women, first in their family of different ages, that got diagnosed. Some had symptoms and then went for a mammogram. Some had clean mammograms and then a short time after had symptoms, and it was quite advanced because of the type of cancer, breast cancer they had. So there's so many different journeys out there, whether it's breast cancer or otherwise. And if we don't advocate for ourselves and recognize what's happening with our body, no one else will. So I'm empowering women and others to just know your body and know when to speak up, because no one will know it better.
Going throughout that whole waiting process, I'm curious about how you were able to cope throughout that whole period.
I didn't cope. I was shut down, and I was a shell of myself because I had 2 young kids and family to still look after, and I didn't cope. And it wasn't until many, many months down the road where I imploded, probably is the best way to describe it. I imploded, and I accepted that that was where I was at, and that in order to help myself, I needed to open up to get help in various aspects, from physical to mental health. And that's when I started healing. Having a support system was instrumental in that. But the biggest part was myself, recognizing it and wanting to do the work to move forward. That was hard for me to acknowledge, because we don't do that enough. Acknowledge and be proud of our own accomplishments, especially as a woman, when you have many roles to carry out, whether it's a wife, a mother, daughter, a sister. We put ourselves last. I'm proud to say that I put in the work, and I'm so much better for it, and I'm here today, and I could share my story with you, Colin. As hard as this is, I have gotten over my own comfort zones and boundaries, because the old me would never do something like this, but the new me is wanting to share. And if I can help one person, if I can support one person, I've done good. And sometimes it's just knowing that there's someone out there that's got your back or can relate made the biggest world of a difference to me. Knowing that someone was just there, and it was okay for me to cry, and it was okay for me to feel tired, or validating my feelings and what I was going through was instrumental in the healing process. And I would share with other people that regardless of what journey you're going through, you're not alone. There's someone out there for you, but you have to be willing to open up yourself and receive.
You speak about a support system or a support group. Was that because it was COVID? Was that primarily your family, or did you seek out support from individuals who are in a similar situation or were in a similar situation?
Because it was in the middle of COVID, everything was shut down. The BC Cancer Agency has many resources, and they were very helpful. It was all remote, but it was still helpful. Yes, my family was my biggest support through that process. But I'll be honest, you can throw all the resources at me, but if I wasn't ready to accept those resources, I'll be honest, that they're useless. If I can encourage people to just open up to what's happening, their weaknesses, because we're very vulnerable. I was very vulnerable, and I wasn't used to that. And I wasn't hearing what other people were saying or what they were seeing. And until I did, I can see how it's a very lonely time for people going through this job, because at the end of the day, as a patient, we don't want to burden our family. We want to help them. But I can say by helping myself, when I started helping myself, then I could pay it forward to my family. So.
I think something that reminds me of, and I'll just refer back to Lucia's conversation a bit. This line that she said to me stuck to me really, really strongly was, being on an airplane and having the message be, put your oxygen mask on before you put it on your kids. Like, that message from her kind of connects to yours here, where I think individuals who are going through something like that need to prioritize themselves in order to help others around them. That to me was really profound, just because you don't really think about it in the day-to-day. You go through the day-to-day and, you prioritize others, like you said, and it's just that reminder of, okay, I need to think about myself for a second and take care of myself. So yeah, I think that rings true for a lot of people. Yeah.
And it's hard to do.
Yeah.
But if we think about it, where if I'm happy and I'm strong and confident in myself and who I am, everyone around me will reap the benefits of that. But if I'm struggling and I'm just surviving, I'll be on edge, I'll be irritated, whether it's fatigue or something else, that goes forward as well. We all know what it's like. So, and it's hard on a day-to-day basis, but if we remind ourselves to do that, everyone wins.
Right. Yeah. I want to speak about, you bring up the BC Cancer Agency. I think, as you mentioned, there are tons of resources out there. I'm curious what you found. I'm just wondering, like somebody who is going through it, I don't know how in your face the resources are put in front of you from healthcare providers or whoever they're getting the health support from. Like, is that readily available? Like, here's all the things you need.
So unless it was available remotely, there were no in-person support groups, for example, or consultations with dietitian. Everything was remote. So perhaps I didn't tap into that as much because of the situation of the timing of when I got diagnosed. But they are readily available. I feel like you would need to also seek those out as well, but they're all on the website for one to tap into, and whichever clinician or oncologist one needs to talk to, they would have that information to direct you into which facility or which area is available.
Okay.
And there are lots and lots of support groups available for people, but you need to have to take it you have to take initiative to join. And that's one of the challenges I had, not just because of COVID, but being in healthcare, I felt like I knew some things that others didn't, and I found it hard to relate to others, and I wasn't ready to be in those kind of support groups. So it was hard, it was challenging. One needs to take initiative to be willing to join all these different types of groups, and when one is in denial, it's very hard to do so.
I guess you brought it up earlier, was with everything that goes on with life, work, family, etc., it makes it really challenging to take on that initiative to seek out resources or take care of yourself in general. And so, well, I guess it was COVID. So you weren't working at the time?
Once I got diagnosed, I stopped working.
Okay.
So, and then COVID just was another variable because things were no in person and there was restrictions.
Yeah.
But you know, once the world opened up, once I opened up to recognizing that there's help available and that I needed to work on myself. Trust me, in healthcare, people told me, you need to do this, this, and this. Go out for a walk. Do this for sleep, because I was not sleeping. I had insomnia from the get-go. I was not sleeping. My brain was on and I couldn't shut it down to sleep. And I only got some naps in the day when everyone was at school or work because I was so tired, but it was a cycle every single day. And I knew what I needed to do in theory, but I couldn't do it. And it took time to heal and process and get to a place where I could eventually apply those techniques everyone was telling me to do to get some sleep. I was trying not to take medication for things, so pros and cons about that. But once I got to a better place and was starting to heal, it just exploded, and I was on the path of healing and processing. And like I said, it took time, and it took a lot of work on my part, and that took me to 3.5, 4 years to finish healing or be in a place where I accept where I am now in terms of I'm not the same Tammie as I was. And that's okay. I accept that I get tired easy and people won't understand why I can't do XYZ or be at full force and full speed like I was, because I can't. And I'm advocating for myself now way better than I was pre-cancer because I'm stronger for it. I want people to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and it's different for everyone.
From your side, like, you're still constantly screening and testing? In
terms of screening and testing, the BC Cancer Agency follows me quite closely. Appointments for me are every 6 months because I'm still on medication now to prevent cancer from spreading to other parts of the body. So they follow me quite closely. And that's my journey. Everyone has a different journey.
Right.
Because of the different cancers and the different treatments they have. Not one cancer or breast cancer is the same, so it's hard for me to answer generically, but the cancer agency is very involved.
At this point, and this is one thing that Lucia and we spoke about, and I know to her family is everything to her, and you know, I think sharing that side of it is always a little bit touchy just because you don't want to either speak on their behalf or whatever, but I'm curious if you wanted to share something about family.
I can look back and say I can see how hard it was for my family because they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to help me. They helped me as best as they could in the way they think they were helping me. In the beginning phases, I wasn't able to articulate what I was going through. I wasn't able to articulate the feelings I was having, and I definitely was not able to articulate what I needed help with, and that was really hard. So because I was not able to process what was here, I couldn't bring it out to ask, hey, I need someone to make dinner for me. I wasn't able to do any of those kind of things. And again, for me, it was COVID, so it's not like my family was able to just readily come over and make dinner for me, which made my scenario very unique to others. But once I was healing and I could start to verbalize and actually identify what I was feeling and say, Colin, I'm feeling really tired right now. I need help with the kids to XYZ. It made it easier for the family and people around me to know what I needed help with. So I did get to that point, but in the beginning it's really hard because in the very beginning, most of us don't want to burden our family, don't want to reach out and ask for help. But honestly, inside, we're wanting that. I'm wanting just someone to just come and say, I'm gonna do this for you. No questions, no rejections. And that's amazing when my family did that.
I'm sure for you, like, there's no turning point of like a spontaneous turning point where it's like, okay, I can articulate this properly to my family. Like, what gave you that ability or the tools in order to properly articulate? You mentioned acceptance, but was there a process in building the tools to articulate it?
The process or getting the tools was acknowledging within myself and talking to someone. Talking to someone about my story, what was going on, and getting validation about what I was going through is legit and that it was real and it's okay. And as I went through that, then I was able to articulate, like you're saying. There wasn't like one turning point. It was a series of minor wins that led to the bigger win, which is where I'm now. It's a process. Everything's a process. It's a lot of work for the individuals that are going through this journey. I wish I could just say I can achieve 100 on a test and then it flips over. It wasn't like that for me. It was a slow progression and there are bumps along the way, but you get there. I got there. And people can get there, but they have to work at it.
You know, I think we speak about a lot of the technical aspects of the diagnosis and of cancer and of your experience, mental health. I would love so I think with Lucia was sharing her experience with something. Her specifically was with Hawaii and kind of allowing that to inspire her and to kind of push through the dark days, as you say. I'm curious if you want to share anything of that sort.
Being there for my family, like I said, my kids were really young at the time. Just showing up as best as I could and then showing up more with each day mainly was the driving force. It finally got to me one day that I can't help myself if I'm not open to receiving.
So after sharing your story, Tammie, I'm curious, is there a message that you feel like could help somebody who is going through something similar to your experience or maybe their own journey with cancer?
What I would say is I'm 4 years after diagnosis next month, and I've been cancer-free for 3 years, and I hope and I feel that I'm going to live a really long time because it was caught early through mammography. I got treatment and they got everything, and that I'm very lucky to be here. And that could be the same for someone else. Listen to your body and advocate for yourself. Empower yourself to look after yourself. It's hard for me to articulate because I just want to help someone else, but we have to listen to ourselves and advocate for ourselves, because then we can be around. I am going to be around for my kids and my family. I'm so grateful for every day I have. And if I didn't share my story here with you today, no one would know. And that's okay. But I shared my story today because if I can help someone, support someone in any way, I feel like I've paid it forward.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tammie.
Everyone has a journey. It doesn't matter if it's cancer or something else. If I could share something with everyone out there, it would be to don't give up. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and there's people around you that care. Don't give up. Just keep taking one step at a time forward. Someone's got you.
Thank you, Tammie. Please share this content with your friends and family to help us grow our outreach. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all soon.